Before we get into the prayer, there are 5 preconditions that a Muslim has to observe before praying. And we're going to look at the bare bone of this. We're not going to get into details because this set of videos is made for people who are just learning how to pray and need to learn how to pray in like a week or a day. And we're not going to get into the details for that reason. So the first precondition of the prayer is the entrance of the time. So we have to pray on time. Now, you can pray to Allah anytime, in any language, in any place, except for disrespectful places like the bathroom. You wouldn't pray in the bathroom, for example. But there's an obligatory ritual prayer which has another function. Okay? Number 1, it's the most important prayer. Number 2, it actually brings our people together, brings Muslims together. Right? Because this prayer must be done at the select times, in the same exact way, in the same language, in the same form, whether from the time of the Prophet until today, whether it's China, Brazil, America, wherever we are, 2020, 1820, 1920, 1720, doesn't matter. This prayer is done in the same exact way. There's also a great wisdom regarding the prayer time itself, which is that if someone says to you, pray right now, your sincerity is not there. It's not coming from you. But at the same time, if you're given an action and no deadline, no structure, most of us won't do it at all. So Allah Ta'ala has combined the two by giving us a window, but also limits, right? So within this window of time, you're going to pray from your own self. So it brings out the sincerity of a person. But it also gives us some discipline in that it gives us a beginning time and an end time. You cannot pray before the beginning, all right? And you cannot pray after it's over. Well, you can make it up, but you shouldn't delay it past. You're sinful if you delay it purposely past. Regarding the prayer times, the prayer times are based on the movement of the sun, which a brand new Muslim does not need to know that on the spot. What you need to know, in fact, is merely that you can get an app. There are a million of these, Islamic Prayer Finder, whatever. And the app will basically tell you the beginning and end of each of the 5 prayer times. And you'll notice a quarter of the day, or half the daylight hours, there is no prayer. So the first half of the daylight, there's no prayer. So there's 5 prayers in the remaining 75% of the 24-hour cycle. There will be 5 prayers. And for about a quarter of that, from the sunrise all the way until the middle of the day, there's no obligatory prayer. So it suffices a person just get the app, get the calendar, and that's a good way to start. The second precondition of the prayer, before we pray, we have to remove something called najasa from our body. Najasa is filth. Okay, and the Sharia, now we all consider certain things filthy, right? But when it comes to the prayer, Islamic law or the Sharia tells us there's certain things that we cannot pray on with that stuff on our skin, on our clothes, or on the place of our prayer. And all we would have to do is wipe it away with water. The stain, if it leaves a stain, that's fine, but we have to wipe it away with water. So what are these things that we call, the concept or the filth is najasa? And you have to remove najasa from yourself. And the first thing is flowing blood. So that means a scrape, no problem. Okay? But flowing blood is a problem. A blood, a blood stain, no problem. But flowing blood is the problem. Secondly, anything that comes out of the front or the back of the human being, okay, or animals, okay, with one exception, which I'll get into in a second. So urine, defecation, anything that would come out of the front or back of a human being or animals is najis, okay, and we would have to wipe it away before we pray. You don't have to clean the whole garment. You would just have to clean that area of najasa with pure water, like regular water, and then you could use soap if you want to after that. But first you need to use regular water. The exception is animals that we eat. Okay, so a sheep, if you stepped in the droppings of a sheep, is not considered najis. Okay, all right. It's not and sheep dropping is not najasa. A bird dropping is not considered najasa. Okay, so you don't have to worry about the defecation or urine of animals that we eat. It's not considered. And that's practicality too. Farmers would always be najis at that point, or have najasa on them. All right, so the next thing is anything that comes out of your intestines. So you vomit, acid reflux, your esophagus, that's najis. Okay. Fourth thing, any oozing pus or whatever that oozes out of an injury is najis. Okay. A fifth thing, intoxicants in their liquid form. So if you have an intoxicant in its dry form, it's obviously forbidden for us to consume intoxicants of any kind, or anything that harms your health is actually forbidden. Okay. But if it's an intoxicant that's dry, even if it's on your body, like the dust of it is on your body, you can still pray with it. Okay, you just can't consume it. But if it's in a liquid form, okay, whether it's beer, wine, heroin, it's at that point najasa and must be cleaned off and discarded. All right. Lastly, anything dead is najis except for any human beings, fish from the sea, insects that don't have flowing blood, and anything that a Muslim slaughtered properly. When I say fish from the sea, I mean anything from water, all right, that lives in water, even including amphibians. But anything that we slaughtered properly, like a cow that you slaughtered, so but aside from the flowing blood, everything is pure. You can eat everything from it. So these are the four exceptions: the human being, animals that are slaughtered properly, insects that don't have flowing blood, and fourthly is the animals of the sea. Even when they're dead, they're pure. Okay, the Prophet said anything of the sea is pure. So that's a summary of what is a listing of things that are categorized as najasa or ritual impurity, and you need to remove that from your clothes, skin, or place of prayer. All right, now the third precondition is wudu. You have to have wudu. Now, as I said earlier, this set of videos is for a brand new Muslim. So we're only going to talk about the 7 obligations of the prayer. The first obligation is intention. So let's say you were to fall into a pool of water. That's not enough, according to the vast majority of Islamic scholars. What you need to have is you need to make the intention that you're purifying yourself for the prayer. Okay? So the first obligation is intention. The second is the face. The third is wiping the hair. The fourth is the arms. Okay? The fifth is the feet. The sixth is continuity, so that you should, if you stop to the point that you're fully dry, then you've stopped too long, you have to redo it. And then the seventh is rubbing. Now you only have to rub 3 things: the face, the arms, and the feet. All right. Now that's the theory of it. Now what does wudu actually look like? In the past, one of our teachers was recorded making wudu, and he did it very slow and meticulous to show us. We're only going to look at the obligations. So we're going to look at how he washes his face, okay, and gets through the face is basically the hairline down to the temples, the jawline, okay, over the beard, not in the beard, over the beard. And then you need to get the area in your eyes, not inside the eyes, but that are near the eyes, the crevice there, and under the nose. So let's watch how Sheikh Khatri of West Africa makes his wudu. All right, now most of us are going to be making wudu from a sink. He's clearly making wudu from outdoors. And you notice he gets the area in the eyes, the crevice there, and under the nose, and all around from the hairline, down the jaw, and over the beard, if you have a beard. You do not have to go inside the beard. So he's basically making sure not to leave off a single centimeter, a single millimeter of his face. He's making sure to get everything. And he's repeating it over and over so that you can see it, but that's basically how he does it. Now, in terms of washing, you notice washing is that there's pouring water as well as wiping. So it has 2 things. You pour the water as well as wiping. Now you can splash it as long as water's moving. So the idea is you're not just wiping. The water needs to move on your face, and then you wipe on top of that. So that's the first thing. Now let's watch him do the arms. Watch as he does the arms all the way to the elbow, and make sure to get between the fingers and every inch of the arm, the fingers, everything. He's being very meticulous to teach us and show us here, but you're going to get everything. You notice this religion is really obsessed with cleanliness. If you could say that. It's obsessed with two things, reading and cleanliness. So we should be educated and clean. If you're a Muslim, you're educated and clean. The idea of someone being unclean, how could your hands be unclean when you're doing this, 2-3 times a day, Now we pray 5 times a day, but if you don't lose your wudu by passing gas or going to the bathroom or heavy sleep, okay, then you don't need to make wudu again. And we'll talk about the things that break wudu in a second. All right, you notice you don't have to go in between the toes. That's a sunnah or something which is extra to be done. There are obligations and there are sunan. So you don't have to go between the toes, but you do have to make sure you get the heels and the ankles. All right, so those 2 bones, you have to get them, and you have to get the heels. It's very important to get the heels so that if you notice, he's going like up to here on the foot. He's going up to there. He's not even going just to the bone. He's going a little bit over the bone, as you'll see. And he has this neat technique of slowly dripping the water and then letting it all go. So water has to run on the foot as well. Okay, so he's being very meticulous to make sure every single inch of the foot is covered in wudu. All right, so that's all we need to see in terms of the live demonstration or the video demonstration. Now, the 6th and 7th obligations of wudu are that a person has to make sure that they do their wudu all at once, continuity. Arabic tawali, which is that if you get dry in the middle, then you haven't fully made you have to start over. If you're fully dry, then you have to start over. Okay, and the 7th obligation is the rubbing. As you saw the sheikh rubbing, right, very meticulously. All right, so we also have to rub when we do the face, arms, and feet. Now, once you make wudu, you are quote unquote upon wudu. Okay, until you're upon tahara or purification, until you do one of the following things: anything that comes out of the front or the back. Okay. Anything that comes out of the front or the back, urine, gas, whatever comes, anything that comes out of those 2 organs, you have lost your wudu. Okay? You have to do your wudu again before you pray. Not at the moment, but before you pray. Or heavy sleep, to the point that if you were to drop a pen, you wouldn't realize it. Like heavy sleep, you lost your wudu. Or touching for pleasure. If you're touching your spouse, for example, and there is pleasure derived, or you intended to derive pleasure, then at that point, that also causes a person to lose their wudu. Or you have doubt. Any doubt, whether I forgot if I made wudu or lost wudu, you need to redo your wudu. So these are the basic things that cause a person, these are the fundamentals of what causes a person to lose their wudu. If these things happen, you have to make wudu again. Remember, if impurity like blood or defecation gets on you, you don't have to make wudu. This is a common misconception. All you have to do is wash it away with water. All right, so we've gone over 3 preconditions so far. We've done the prayer times. We talked about najasa, removing najasa from ourselves. We talked about making wudu. Now the other 2 are easy. The 4th one is covering your body. All right, so when we talk about coverage, what does coverage mean? Coverage has 2 attributes. It's clothes that is neither, it's like 2 negative attributes, neither form-fitting nor transparent. Okay? If your clothes is form-fitting, all right, you're not covered. Like that part of your body, we don't consider it covered. Like the leggings that people wear, I know a lot of people wear leggings. It's very popular for people to wear leggings, right? But we as Muslims, we can't pray with that. I mean, we shouldn't even wear it outside of the house, to be honest with you, right? But tight, even for a man, the tight clothes to his chest, he's trying to show off all his exercise and his workout. It's not even appropriate. So the form-fitting clothes, if you have that, wear it in the house only. And definitely you can't pray in it. Even if you wear it, let's say I'm a brand new Muslim, listen, just give me the bare minimum, fine. You cannot pray with it. At the very least, you don't pray with it. Right? And eventually a Muslim should not even wear that stuff outside the house at all, unless you're only going to another house of women, then it's fine. But or your immediate family, like your immediate your husband, your father, whatever, your son, you're allowed to have form-fitting clothes on in front of them. The other attribute of clothes is that it's not transparent. If it's transparent, then it's not coverage either. So if it's you see your body behind it, it's not. So all this comes in a little phrase which says la yasif wa la yashif. La yasif means it doesn't define the contours of the body. Wa la yashif means it does not. It's not see-through. It's not transparent. Now, for the man, he should cover his shoulders, and he should cover from the navel to the knee when he prays. And for the woman, she has to cover everything except for her face and her hands. All right? Everything has to be covered besides her face and her hands. Someone says to you, oh, why is not equality? It's not equality because they don't look the same. Okay? When they try to sell beer, they don't put a guy. They put a nice, beautiful woman because that's what they know people are going to look at. Okay? So they don't look the same. So therefore, Allah Ta'ala also has rules that are different for each gender. The fifth and final precondition is pretty simple, and that is to face the direction of Mecca. And for us, any easterly direction suffices. Okay? Now, when you think about where we are, let's say in New Jersey or pretty much all of North America, and where Mecca is, clearly we are north of Mecca. We get snow and Mecca doesn't. Right? How could anyone commonsensically think that New Jersey is not north of Mecca? New Jersey is clearly north of Mecca. However, if you think about if the criterion is the shortest distance between Mecca and America, or even England, let's say, then it's going to be northeast. It's not going to be southeast. Well, actually, I shouldn't speak for England. I don't know how they fly out, but for us, we fly northeast. Why? Because the Earth is oblong, right? It's not flat. So by the equator, you would have to come out. So for a plane to go southeast, it would have to come out because the Earth is rounded at the equatorial level. Have to go out and around. Whereas if you're the northern part of the world is shallow, okay, like it's more shallow, so you could just dip. So you would actually go north and then dip south is actually the shorter route. So from the aspect of common sense, it's going to be southeast. From the aspect of shortest distance, it's going to be northeast. So the summary of what the scholars have told us is that any easterly direction for us Americans, anywhere east. Now you could use your compass on your phone. You could use the highway systems if you want, right? So if you know that a certain turnpike is going this way, then that's north and that's east. Okay, and that's northeast. If you're going to build a mosque, you're going to build it northeast. If you're going to pray with Muslims, you look northeast. Why? Because all of us here, like 99.9% of Muslims in America, pray northeast. So that's the qibla that you're going to use when you're praying with a group. All right, so those are your 5 preconditions. Again, entrance of the prayer time, purification of your clothes, skin, and place of prayer, wudu, covering your body, and facing the qibla. These are the 5 preconditions of the prayer.